In this video, we are going to discuss these topics: dependency injection, inversion of control, um, annotations in order to implement that inversion of control. So we will see three annotations at least: uh, component, scope, and auto-wired. So what we need to do for this, is Java 1.8 or later versions, Eclipse IDE with the installed Spring tool suite. Let's go to our Eclipse, and you might have seen this example in the previous video. We have run a sample application, okay? And now I would like you to show the Pym.xml. Since this is a Maven project as well as Spring Boot application, so we would have POM, which is project object model thing, right? So um, here you would see group ID, artifact version, and dependencies. So what dependency that you would be able to see up to here, right? So basically you would see Spring Boot starter test, and JUnit. So basically these are the dependencies that we are seeing. So we are not doing anything with the database and all, so we will not be able to see this type of dependencies here, right? So we see the basic dependencies that we got, okay? So that's a different thing. So now we will see into a different concept, which is dependency injection. So for that, what we will do is, in the docs demo, let's go ahead and create a simple doc class that we normally do. Okay, so this would be under package like this. Okay, it's not a main class. Let's finish off and go ahead and create a couple of private instance variables. Which is the ID of type integer, name of type private, breed of the dog of type of string. Let's not do any constructor right now. And you could insert getters and setters by right-clicking source, create getters and setters for all these, generate, and go ahead and include a toString method as well, similar to this getters and setters. Okay, ID, name, and breed of the dog. Okay, so remember in our very first program that you have done in 44542 course, which is Java, we created this and we have created an object, right? So how we did the object? Dog D is equal to new dog of something, right? So here we are not going to create an object. However, we would be using our Spring application to create objects for us. Okay, so let me show you that. So this is a method, right? So let me see if this have any return type or not. So for that, I'm going to create some local variable. So let's say some D. Okay, so create a local variable D. So which is a configurable application context. The return type of run method here is configurable application context. So for that, what I would be changing my name is app context. So just want to be that. So basically, I'm using this Spring application context in order to create objects for me rather than myself creating objects by using new keyword. Okay. So for that, what I'm doing is dog d1 is equal to, usually we do new dog of, so now I'm doing app context dot get bean And here the required type is dog.class. Okay, because we have only one class in our project right now, so I'm using whatever the required type it is. Okay, so basically what we are doing here is we are using a Spring application context and we are calling the bean. Okay, so what do you mean by a bean? Okay, so a bean is something that it is created in the Spring container. Okay, so I want to show you something here. So inserting a simple text box here. Let's say this is Spring container, which will be built by using Spring Boot framework, Spring container. So what this Spring container will do is it will create objects similar to our factory method pattern. Factory is generating objects or creating objects there. So Spring container will also create objects. So what class we have here? We have dog class. So that means it may have dog object. Okay, and since it is creating by the Spring container, so we refer that as a bean. Okay, so beans are similar to objects basically. Okay, so we refer to as bean. We refer to as bean here. So if you have another class in our project, your container would create that automatically. Okay, so we will come back to that. So Spring, whether we would be able to print this object. Okay, so you could use relaunch dog demo, or you could run this by using Spring application. Now I'm doing relaunch dog demo here. One thing is that you always have to save before you run here, whereas in NetBeans you don't have to save because it automatically saves for you. Okay, so we got an error, so which is nothing but no such bean definition exception. So that means it is Spring Framework is telling that there is no bean that refers to dog. So in order to do that, what we need to do is we have to use an annotation called component. Okay, so which is nothing but this one, @component. You could import that component spring framework dot stereotype dot component. Okay, so what this component would do is uh, this is an annotation. As you know, this is an annotation. This is an annotation that is used to denote a class as a component. One class is a component. This means the Spring framework will auto detect the classes for dependency injection. Okay, so which automatically detects for the dependency injection. So we will discuss about dependency injection just a second, but here when you use @component, it denotes the whole class as a component. So now you already have object created here and you referred as a bean, but when you actually run that, that is not coming because you didn't tell that it is a component. So now we are telling that it is a component. So now what you need to do is save one more time and run this project. Okay, so now you got ID is equal to 0, name null, and breed null. So that is not a surprise thing, right? So basically we get a default values because we don't have a constructor in dog Java, so which automatically calls the default constructor. And when you have default constructor, you would be able to get all the default values. However, if you want to set some values, would you be able to set? Yes. Dog set name as puppy, set breed as pug breed. Okay, and you could print dog object D1. Relaunch application. So when I'm printing first time, we didn't have any value set. So it's calling default constructor and getting this. And when I'm printing later, I set these values and I get those values here. Okay, so which is 12 puppy pup. Okay, so this is a simple creating an object. Okay, but we didn't create an object. We used Spring container for us to create object, and we used getBean method in order to call that object. And which object we need? We need dog.class. Okay, so and that has happened in the Spring container. So this is one part. Okay, so let me go ahead and see and write a constructor here. Okay, let us do our own values instead of default values. So next one, name is equal to not yet decided, and breed is equal to let's say hybrid. Okay, and you could print this as this out. Object created. Okay, so let's run one more time and see what happens. So we created object first time, we created object. So since we have a constructor, you're going to get the values that you have given in the constructor, and then you set the values here. You got hello Spring Boot and goodbye Corona. Okay, so did you get any kind of object created anywhere? Yes, we got object created because we are calling our constructor. Okay, so now let us create one more object of dog. I just copy pasted, but make sure you change all the D1s to D2 in this set of code. If you don't, you will not get the correct results. Okay, let me launch one more time. Okay, so first let's see how many objects it has been created. Okay, so we have only one object created. Even though if we have dog D1 and dog D2, we have only one. Okay, and we have hello world, hello Spring Boot, and goodbye Corona. So first statement here is we are we are we are we are calling the dog object D1, so which is a nor constructor that has some default values that we provided, and then we set this one, and even dog D2 is also the same thing. So let me change the values here, pug1, pug2, 121, and then run once again. Okay, so even though you have created, see this dog D2 is not taking the default values. This line number 23 is not taking the default values that we have been provided. So, but what it is taking is, it is taking from the previous object itself, which is nothing but puppy, breed, and pug. Okay, so these values were taking here. So, and you set that D2 values here, and then you got the new values, which is 121, puppy 1, and pug 1. Okay, so basically what's happening here is we are creating only one object. Okay, so now let's see to print D1 here. So now D1 is having pug1 and all. So basically what's happening here is we are creating only one object. So that is nothing but a kind of a singleton. Okay, so it's creating objects, but we are using it only one time, only one object. So which is a singleton object. So which is one time object we are getting. So in order to remove that, what we need to do is we have to change our scope to prototype. We have to change our scope to prototype. Okay, we changed our scope to prototype. And let's relaunch our application and see how many times the object has been created. Okay, so the object has been created once, object has been created twice here. Okay, so now you don't see any surprise. When you print dog d1, you're going to get the first values. And whenever you created a dog, whenever you call a dog bean object that has been created by the Spring container, you are going to get the default values. So prototype is something that you would be able to get several instances. If you give what is that? Yeah. So prototype will be able to give you all the instances. Okay. So that would be the case here. When you do prototype, you would be able to get multiple objects. Okay. You can call the objects multiple times. So you're not creating objects, you're doing that. So, okay. So this is a basic example of inversion of control. Okay. So let's create one more class called trainer. Trainer would have trainer ID, let's say, and name. And go ahead and create setters and getters for those. And toString as well. Where is the source? Okay, so this is a simple thing that we have done. And let's do a private variable. No, let's demo this first and then we will come back here. Let's create a trainer object. Let's say t1 is equal to app context dot. Since we already have that getBean method, which would automatically calls from the Spring container, let's use trainer.class. Okay, and run this project. Okay, so we get no such bean definition exception. You should know why. Because we didn't write component, yes. So now what we did is we wrote the component, so we should expect some kind of output now, right? Okay, so now it's happened. So basically what happened is here in your Spring container, you also have trainer object. So when you write at the rate component, which would automatically tells your Spring container that it would be able to create beans there. Okay, so now we have trainer object as well. Okay, so now let's do a dependency here. So as we know that dog would have a trainer. Okay, dog would have a trainer. Okay, so basically what we are doing is we have two objects. One is dog, the other one is trainer. And now we are keeping this type of trainer in the dog class, which is nothing but dependency. Okay, so which is nothing but dependency. So let's go ahead and create getters and setters for these. This trainer object, and print that in the toString as well, the next line. Trainer dot toString. Okay, okay. So now we get null pointer exit. We didn't change anything here. We didn't change anything in the driver class, but the only thing that we changed is we added a dependency here. Okay, we added a dependency here, which is nothing but trainer. So now you have to tell to your source code that these two beans are already there and now they have to be connected. So how they are dependent, how they would be able to do that? By using, these are dependent now. Okay, so these are dependent. So now we have to use an annotation called @autowired. Okay, so we will be using @autowired, and then put this one here. Okay, so now run the project. You would be able to see dog objects, right? So this is one dog object, and this is another dog object. Okay, so we are getting trainer as well because we included that, right? So trainer does not have, we didn't set any values for trainer, so we are getting default values there. Okay, so basically what's happening here is objects are the backbone, okay, of your application here, and these objects are managed by Spring IoC, which is inversion of controller, which is nothing but that container. Okay, and those are called as beans, and we used these annotations to get communicated with that. So now what you could do is, in order to do that, you could say that t1 dot set id of 23, t1 dot set name of some trainer, John, and similarly you can create and you can set those values here actually. d1 dot set trainer to t1. So that means dog1 will have trainer t1. And if you want the same trainer for dog b2 also, that's fine. Otherwise, what you need to do is you have to create these three lines one more time. So let me use the same trainer here. d2 dot set trainer of t1. Okay, so now I don't want d1 here. I'm just commenting it out because we already got that. Okay, so now we got this application executed here correctly. Okay, so in this demo, what we have done is we created dependencies and we removed those dependencies by using annotations at the rate component, at the rate prototype, and at the rate auto-wired. Okay, so let me do one simple thing here. Instead of giving prototype, let me do singleton. Value is equal to singleton. So now the object has been created once. So initially we didn't give anything here. So that means if you don't uh, specify your scope, it automatically takes the singleton. Okay, but here it would be now prototype. Prototype will give you multiple things, multiple beans or multiple objects. Okay, so with this, we just completed dependency injection, inversion of control, annotations, and understanding the about Spring container. Okay, so dependency injection is nothing but having another object into another, having one object into another class. And inversion of control is something that you would be able to use annotations and able to solve it. Okay, by using Spring container. Okay, thank you.